He never said goodbye. He only wrote it. Could one letter really carry a lifetime of love? Nadia had known Thomas for what felt like an eternity. Their story wasn't one of grand declarations or passionate embraces. It was a story woven from quiet moments, small, almost imperceptible gestures, and shared laughter that filled the spaces between them. Thomas was a man of few words, especially when it came to his feelings. His love was a silent current running beneath the surface of their friendship. It was hidden in the way his eyes would find hers across a crowded room, in the subtle smiles that played on his lips, only for her, and in the way he remembered the smallest, most insignificant details about her life, the kind of coffee she liked, the song that made her tap her feet, the stories from her childhood she thought she'd only mentioned in passing. She loved him too, in her own quiet, hesitant way. But their deep friendship had built a comfortable, safe wall around them, one that neither dared to breach. The unspoken question of what if hung in the air, but life, with its endless complications and demands, always seemed to get in the way. Days turned into weeks, weeks into years, and their world remained filled with words that were never spoken, feelings that were never acknowledged. There were two ships passing in the night, except they were moored in the same harbor, afraid to admit they were destined for the same journey. Then, without any warning, the world tilted on its axis. Thomas fell ill. It was sudden, aggressive, and unfair. The vibrant man she knew began to fade, but his quiet strength remained. Nadia became a fixture at his side, a constant presence in the sterile, quiet hospital room. She read to him, told him stories about her day, and held his hand, willing her own strength into him. She hoped in those long, still hours that he would finally say the words she had longed to hear, that he would break the silence, but he never did. The confession remained locked away even as his time grew short. One morning, the world felt colder, emptier. He had passed away quietly in his sleep, while she was at home, lost in a fitful slumber. She awoke to the crushing weight of absence, a hollow space in her heart, where his unspoken words now echoed painfully. Grief was a suffocating blanket. In the days that followed, while sorting through his modest belongings with his family, she found it. A small, crisp envelope tucked inside his favorite book, with her name, Nadia, written in his familiar, steady hand. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The words on the single page were a torrent, a confession that had been held back for a lifetime, now released in a final, heartbreaking flood. He wrote, "I loved you silently. I never had the courage to say it aloud, but I loved you every day, in every way. From the first moment I saw you, my world found its center. Forgive me for my silence. Please, don't remember me with sadness. Remember me in your heart, as I have always remembered you in mine." The ink was slightly blurred in places, as if from a fallen tear. That day Nadia read the letter for the first time, tears streaming down her face, blurring the world around her. And so began a ritual. Every year on the anniversary of his passing, she would take out the letter. She'd sit in the same chair by the window, the worn paper held gently in her hands, and watch the sun rise or set, just as he had described watching her do so many times. Each reading was different. Some years the tears came in waves, a fresh surge of grief and what-ifs. In other years, a smile would touch her lips as she remembered a shared joke or a quiet afternoon. The letter became her anchor, a tangible piece of a love that had felt so ethereal. Through the years of this solitary ritual, she began to understand. Love isn't always loud and declarative. It's not always a fireworks display. Sometimes, love is quiet, patient, and impossibly enduring. It's a gentle warmth that can survive even the cold finality of death. The silence that had once felt like a barrier, a failure on both their parts, now began to feel sacred. It was their own private language. Thomas had loved her with a depth she was only just beginning to comprehend, a love that was selfless and profound. And she realized she had loved him in exactly the same way, quietly, deeply, and without condition. Neither of them had been brave enough to confess it aloud, but the love was real. It had always been real. She started to see his quiet devotion not as a weakness, but as a form of unspoken courage. She carried his memory not as a burden of grief, but as a lesson in love. It shaped how she moved through the world, how she formed new connections. reminding her to see the love hidden in the small gestures, in the listening ear, in the comfortable silences. On the 10th anniversary of his death, the ritual felt different. The air was still, the morning light soft. Nadia sat in her chair, the letter, now soft and creased at the folds, resting in her lap. She read the words one more time, not with the pain of loss, but with a sense of peaceful acceptance. They were a part of her now, etched onto her soul. She looked out the window, at the quiet street waking up, and whispered into the empty room, her voice clear and steady. "I loved you silently too, Thomas. Always." In that moment, something shifted. The weight of a decade of unspoken conversations, of grief, of longing, simply lifted. It was as if she had finally answered his letter, completing the conversation they never had. She finally understood. A silent love is not a wasted love. It doesn't disappear into the void. It leaves a permanent mark, a profound lesson, and a beautiful, bittersweet memory that shapes you, enriches you, and ultimately sets you free. Have you ever loved in silence? Could quiet devotion be the truest form of love? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.